Did you know that almost half of the US was once part of Mexico? It wasn't until the Mexican Cession of 1848 when Mexico ceded 55% of its territory, including the present-day states of California, Nevada, Utah, New Mexico, most of Arizona and Colorado, and parts of Oklahoma, Kansas, and Wyoming. So it's no surprise that many of the states on this list will be out west. But there are also many people of Hispanic or Latin origin that have settled on the East Coast in states like New York and Florida. First, let's look at the term. Many people use Hispanic and Latin interchangeably, but there are differences. Hispanic refers to anyone who has their origins in a Spanish-speaking country, which includes Spain, whereas Latin American refers to a person with origins from anywhere in Latin America, such as Mexico, South and Central America, and the Caribbean. For this, we will use the US Census definition, which defines Hispanic or Latino as a person of Cuban, Mexican, Puerto Rican, South or Central American, or other Spanish culture or origin, regardless of race. We'll look at the top 10 states by percentage. Stay tuned to the end to see the state with the smallest percentage of Hispanic or Latin Americans. Number 10 is Illinois with 17.32%. This state is one of the more surprising ones on this list. It wasn't formerly a part of Mexico, nor is it an East Coast metropolis where Puerto Ricans, Cubans, and Caribbean influences are on every street corner. But there is, of course, Chicago. Chicago is where most Latin Americans live in Illinois, with a few exceptions like the suburbs of St. Louis, but Chicago is the place to be for Latin culture, with some neighborhoods boasting over 50% of its population identifying as Latin or Hispanic. One particular neighborhood is Little Village. The Little Village Arch is the gateway to this vibrant Mexican-American area known locally as La Villita. Local art gives character to every street corner, and the smell of Mexican food lures people into its mini restaurants. Rattlesnake and alligator are not uncommon menu items in this part of town. Chicago has been in the news lately with its migrant crisis, standing firm as a sanctuary city. Over 19,000 of the migrants are of Latin/Hispanic origin, and while tensions are high between migrants and locals, these new migrants will only add to the thriving culture that makes Chicago a unique Midwestern city. Number 9 is New York with 19.07%. While the whole state isn't entirely made up of New York City, that is where a majority of the Latin population live and work. That being said, the city of Haverstraw, just north of the city, is the most Hispanic or Latino city in New York, with 67% of the population identifying as Hispanic or Latino. The Bronx, a borough in New York City, is majority Latin and Hispanic, and the first Hispanic borough president of the Bronx was Herman Badillo in the 1960s. Buffalo, Rochester, Yonkers, New Rochelle also have a heavy Latin presence, and Central Islip on Long Island is 52% Hispanic or Latino and has many bilingual or Spanish-only churches. Puerto Ricans by far make up the majority of the Hispanic population in New York, followed by Dominican. Because Puerto Ricans are the biggest demographic, unlike other states on this list, the majority of its Latin population are not immigrants, as Puerto Rico is a US territory. Despite New York being known for its worldwide cuisine, Mexican food is not one that it's known for. However, Caribbean food is where the city shines. Washington Heights is one of the hippest neighborhoods to be for mofongo and ceviche. Number 8 is New Jersey with 20.43%. Living in the shadow of New York City, New Jersey doesn't shy away from its Latin population just because it's not New York. New Jersey's Hispanic and Latin population is steadily growing, with cities like Elizabeth and Paterson having over 50% of its population identifying as such. Smaller towns like North Bergen, Dover, and East Newark have over 60% identifying as Latin or Hispanic. The majority are Mexican, followed by Puerto Rican, Dominican, and then Cuban. The food scene is vibrant across the state, with Cuban, Argentine, and Dominican restaurants dotting the restaurant scene. Over 1 million New Jerseyans speak Spanish in the home, with many more speaking it as a second language. The Center for Latino Arts and Culture in New Jersey pays homage to the many Latin artists who have shaped the state into the cultural melting pot that it is today. Number 7 is Colorado with 21.66%. Hispanic and Latinos are the second largest ethnic group in the state, and many also identify as Indigenous or Native American. Over the last 23 years, the Latin and Hispanic population has grown at a rate of 72%, which is more than twice the overall growth of the state. Interestingly, Latinos are significantly younger than the average Coloradan, with the median age of Latino or Hispanic Coloradans being 28 years old compared to 36 for the state overall. Additionally, 20% of Latinos in Colorado are 10 or under compared to just 14% of the state's overall population. Although there is a disparity between Latin and Hispanic Coloradans that have graduated high school, they fare much better in Colorado, with 27% not having attained a high school diploma compared to 31% nationally. That being said, Latina women are rocking the college scene, with significantly more Latino women getting a bachelor's degree. To be fair, the men only trail by 3%, but still, this is an impressive achievement for Latino women. Number 6 is Florida, with 25.78%. Most of us expected this state to come, with Miami being a hub for Hispanic and Latin culture. Florida has the highest percentage of Cubans in the US, and this is evident at every turn in South Florida, from the restaurants to the art to the language and culture. The Cuban migration has affected Miami since 1959 and mirrors an overall trend in South Florida, as well as the rest of the US, as more and more cities become multicultural beacons. In Miami, 70% of the population speaks Spanish, and about 20% of the state overall speaks Spanish. While there are many ethnicities represented throughout the state, and even the city of Miami, it's hard to ignore the cultural impact that Cubans have had on South Florida. Fleeing the Castro regime was the primary goal for many of the migrants, and they have since flourished in the Sunshine State. Number 5 is Nevada, with 28.9%, and the vast majority being of Mexican descent. Like other states that integrated into America via the Mexican cession, many Latin Americans in Nevada can trace their ancestry to before the US became a country, let alone since Nevada became a state. The Hispanic and Latin population has exploded since the 1980s, with a jump from 7% under the Reagan era to nearly 30% today. With this increase comes political power as well. Many Latin and Hispanic residents have shaped the state's political landscape through the power of the ballot. They have also contributed to the food and art scene, giving Las Vegas its multicultural feel. It's hard to walk down the Vegas Strip and not see a plethora of Latin restaurants, and of course Latin fusion restaurants, since all restaurants now seem to be on the fusion bandwagon. But Vegas isn't the entire state. Over 20% of Reno also identifies as Latin or Hispanic. According to the 2010 census, Hispanics are majority in Jackpot at 55.6% and West Wendover at a much higher 61.7%. They are also the main ethnic group in Sunrise Manor at 48.5% and Winchester at 44.6%. Number 4 is Arizona, with 31.51% accounting for over 2.3 million residents. Those who identify as Latino or Hispanic make up nearly 43% of the 1.6 million people in Phoenix, the state's capital and largest city. They make up nearly 45% of Tucson, the second largest city, and almost 28% of Mesa, the state's third largest city. Over 85% of those that identify as Latino or Hispanic are of Mexican origin. Hispanic and Latinos make up 25% of Arizona's voting population, which has had major impacts on the political landscape of the state and has shaped how politicians talk about the issue of immigration. Being a border state, many Arizonans have mixed feelings about the state of the southern border. It is often assumed that because so many are Mexican themselves, that they would be pro-immigration, but this assumption presumes that these voters are a monolith. Many of the Mexican Americans living in Arizona have lived there for centuries and were never immigrants. This is a phenomenon that we will also see in the next 3 states on this list. When Mexico ceded so much of its territory to the US, the demographics of the US shifted very abruptly, creating a complicated relationship with Mexican Americans on this side of the border and those just south of us. Number 3 is California, with 39.09% having over 15.5 million residents identifying as Hispanic or Latino. Over 11 million are of Mexican descent and make up the vast majority of California's Hispanic and Latin population. A quarter of all Hispanic Americans live in California. That's right, 25% of all Hispanic Americans live in California. Like Arizona, many have lived in the state for hundreds of years. The indigenous people were first colonized by Spain, hence the language. It was subsequently part of Mexico, and then, of course, as we mentioned, the land was ceded to the United States 175 years ago. Nearly 30% of Californians speak Spanish, and this state is a mecca for Latin culture, food, art, education, and language. California is one of only a handful of minority-majority states. No single ethnic group forms a majority of California's population, making the state a minority-majority state. A minority-majority state means that the majority racial or ethnic group of the United States is not the majority ethnic group in the state. Hispanic Americans represent California in all walks of government, ranging from the Senate to local school boards. Hollywood is also a mecca for actors and actresses of Latin descent. The Academy Awards have seen 2 Latino winners in the Best Supporting Actress category, ironically for the same role in the same movie. Rita Moreno in the first film adaptation of West Side Story in 1961, and Ariana DeBose in the 2021 remake. Number 2 is Texas, with 39.44%, with the vast majority being of Mexican descent. From Tex-Mex food to the Alamo, despite not being number 1 on this list, Texas is probably the first state that comes to mind when thinking of the cultural influence of Spanish culture in the US. Texas is one of only 4 states that requires bilingual education in its schools. In Texas law, bilingual education is defined as a full-time program of dual language instruction that provides for learning basic skills in the primary language of the students enrolled in the program. Texas has been hailed as a pioneer in bilingual education. The state is probably most famous for Tex-Mex food, which is a combination of Mexican and Southern American foods, hence its name, resulting in what we call today Tex-Mex. It wasn't just to cater to the Texas palate, it was also an issue of accessible ingredients. Examples of Tex-Mex food include fajitas, nachos, black beans, canned vegetables, wheat flour, and even yellow cheese. These ingredients are not popular south of the Rio Grande or the Mexican border. Much of the Mexican food we eat here in the US is actually Tex-Mex. Before we get to number 1, let's look at the state with the smallest percentage of Hispanic or Latino Americans. That honor goes to West Virginia, in which only 1.5% of its population identifies as Hispanic or Latin. Maine and Vermont come in closely at 2nd and 3rd with 1.72% and 2.09% respectively. And number 1 is by far New Mexico. With the word Mexico in its name, this should come as no surprise. New Mexico is 49.3% Hispanic or Latino, with a majority of its Hispanic population being indigenous. Unlike many other states on this list, almost none of those that identify as Hispanic or Latino were immigrants at any point in history. New Mexico has a unique culture that combines both the native populations along with the remnants of Spanish colonialism in the region. Indigenous and native communities have occupied what is now New Mexico for centuries. It wasn't until the late 1500s that Spanish colonizers created their first settlements, with Santa Fe being one of the oldest cities in America. Art is a huge part of New Mexican culture and a reflection of its Spanish and subsequently Mexican roots, with Mexican retablos as well as paintings and carved images of saints that can be seen at historical sites, churches, and homes throughout New Mexico. New Mexico is also renowned for its Mexican food as well as Latin indigenous fusion. Around 25% of the state speaks Spanish fluently. When you visit New Mexico, it's hard to forget the rich contributions of the Hispanic and Latin communities that helped build America's 47th state in 1912.